Ireland could end up following in the UK's footsteps and leaving the EU unless it acts, according to an Irish commentator. The UK and the EU are caught up in trade talks at the moment, in a desperate attempt to finalise a deal before the December 31 deadline. As the bloc still tries to come to terms with losing one of its greatest players, European figureheads in Italy and France have feared that their electorates could turn against the EU too. Ireland has sided with the EU throughout most of the Brexit negotiations, keen to increase its hand within the bloc after the UK's exit, but an Irish commentator recently warned that the Emerald Isle could also follow suit. Ruadán Mac Cormaíoc wrote an opinion piece in the Irish Times in February which claimed that Ireland needs to learn from the defeat of British Remainers. His comment appears surprising after Ireland's support for the bloc has increased in the wake of Brexit. For instance, both Sinn Féin and the Green Party have shown their support for the EU in recent months, despite previously opposing the bloc. Indeed, as Mr. Mac Cormaíoc pointed out, the EU is widely associated with some of the best things that have happened in Ireland over the past 2 generations: the peace process, laws on women's rights and social protection, the foreign direct investment strategy and new opportunities for trade and travel and study. Ireland also received more money from the EU than it put in until recent years. However, he suggested the Remainers lost in the UK because they spent too little time making a positive case for the EU, something which could easily happen for Europhiles in Ireland. Mr. Mac Cormaíoc continued, when they did make the case, it was largely an economic, pragmatic one, and a negative one, which stressed the monetary costs of disengagement. The leave argument was an emotional one. Interestingly, Donald Trump's former national security advisor John Bolton made the same claim back in 2016. He told Fox News that the 48% who voted to remain were not pro-EU, but were voting against the uncertainty of life outside the bloc. He explained that even the Remain camp called their position, Remain and Reform, acknowledging that the bloc needed to change. Back in the Irish Times, Mr. Mac Cormaíoc pointed out how Nigel Farage started up the key Eurosceptic party UKIP in the 90s, at a time when Brexit seemed beyond belief, just as Irexit appears to the Irish electorate now.